The Crystal Gardens Hotel sat high above the city like a sparkling crown. Inside the grand ballroom, hundreds of rich and important people gathered for the biggest charity event of the year. There were businessmen in expensive suits, women in glittering dresses, and politicians who smiled for every camera. Waiters carried trays of champagne through the crowd. A string quartet played soft music in the corner. Everything looked perfect. Everything looked peaceful. But perfect things never stay perfect for long. Maya Richardson stood near the tall windows, looking out at the city lights below. She wore a beautiful blue dress that flowed like water when she moved. Her hair was styled elegantly, and a simple gold necklace rested against her dark skin. She looked like she belonged there, because she did. Maya was a successful lawyer who had worked hard her entire life. She had won cases that changed lives. She had stood up for people who had no voice. Tonight, she came to support a foundation that helped children get better education. Maya stepped outside onto the wide terrace to catch her breath. The air was cooler out here, away from the crowded ballroom. She could hear the fountain bubbling in the large pool that sat in the center of the terrace. Soft lights glowed under the water, making it shimmer like liquid diamonds. She pulled out her phone to check a message from her office, then tucked it back into her small purse. She did not notice the four men walking toward her until they were close. Too close. The man in front was Victor Harrington, one of the richest men in the country. He owned tall buildings, fancy hotels, and had his name on half the construction projects in the city. He had pale skin, silver hair slicked back perfectly, and a smile that never quite reached his cold blue eyes. People feared him. People obeyed him. And Victor liked it that way. Behind him walked three other powerful men. There was Judge Kenneth Frost, who decided important court cases. There was Senator Richard Caldwell, who made laws in the government. And there was Thomas Whitmore, the president of the biggest bank in the state. Together, these four men thought they owned everything and everyone. Victor stopped right in front of Maya, blocking her path back to the ballroom. His smile was thin and fake. "I do not believe we have met," Victor said, looking her up and down like she was something he found on his shoe. Some people walk into places thinking they belong when they really do not. Maya felt her heart beat faster, but she kept her face calm. She had dealt with men like this before. Men who thought their money made them better than everyone else. "I am here for the same reason as everyone else," Maya said clearly. "To support the foundation and help children who need it." Victor's smile got even thinner. The three men behind him chuckled quietly, like they were sharing a private joke. "And what exactly makes someone like you qualified to be here?" Victor asked. His voice dripped with meanness, even though his words sounded polite. Maya looked him straight in the eye. "The same thing that makes you qualified. I bought a ticket. I care about helping others. And I have every right to be here." The judge, the senator, and the banker exchanged looks. They were not used to hearing people talk back to them, especially not a black woman who refused to back down. Victor stepped closer. Too close. Maya could smell the alcohol on his breath. His face was red, and his eyes were angry. "Let me teach you something about how this city works," Victor said, his voice getting louder. "There is an order to things here. There are people who matter and people who do not. There are people who belong at events like this, and there are people who should know their place." "That is enough," Maya said firmly. "You need to step back." But Victor was not listening anymore. Something inside him snapped. Maybe it was the alcohol. Maybe it was the fact that his business was failing and he was losing money every day. Maybe it was because he could not stand seeing a confident black woman refusing to be afraid of him. Whatever the reason, Victor Harrington made a choice that would destroy his entire life. His hand shot out and grabbed Maya by both shoulders. His fingers dug into her skin. Before she could scream, before she could push him away, Victor shoved her backward with all his strength. Maya's eyes went wide with shock. Her arms flew out, trying to grab onto something, anything. But there was nothing but air. Her scream cut through the quiet night as her body flew backward. Time seemed to slow down. She saw the lights. She saw the stars. She saw Victor's cruel smile. Then she hit the pool. The splash was enormous. Water exploded upward like a geyser, soaking the marble terrace and the people standing nearby. Maya disappeared under the surface, her beautiful blue dress pulling her down like an anchor. For a terrible moment, everything went silent except for the sound of water settling back into the pool. Then chaos erupted. Guests who had been standing near the terrace doors gasped and screamed. Dozens of phones flew up into the air, all of them recording. Camera flashes lit up the night like lightning. People pressed against the glass windows, trying to see what happened. Inside the ballroom, the music stopped. Conversations died. Everyone turned to look. Maya broke through the surface, coughing and gasping for air. Her makeup ran down her face in black streaks. Her elegant hair hung in wet tangles. Her dress clung to her body, heavy and cold. She struggled to stay afloat, shocked and humiliated and terrified all at once. Victor stood at the edge of the pool, straightening his expensive tuxedo jacket like he had just finished taking out the trash. He brushed imaginary dust off his sleeves and looked down at Maya with disgust. "Maybe now you will remember where you belong," he said loud enough for everyone to hear. The judge laughed nervously. The senator looked away. The banker pretended to check his phone. None of them helped. None of them said a word. But someone else had seen everything. Someone who would make Victor wish he had never been born. The ballroom doors exploded open with a bang that made everyone jump. A tall man with dark skin and powerful shoulders moved through the crowd like a storm cutting through calm water. His name was Marcus Richardson, and he was Maya's husband. He was also one of the most successful technology company owners in the entire country. His company, Richardson Tech Solutions, built the computer systems that half the businesses in America used every single day. Marcus had been inside talking to investors when someone ran up to him and said his wife needed him. He did not ask questions. He just moved. And now, as he stepped onto the terrace and saw Maya in the pool, soaking wet, shaking, and crying, something changed in his eyes. They went from worried to absolutely furious in less than a second. "Maya," he said, and his voice was so full of pain and anger that people nearby actually took a step back. He saw her struggling in the water. He saw her ruined dress and her smeared makeup. He saw the fear and humiliation in her eyes. Then he looked up and saw Victor Harrington standing at the edge of the pool with that horrible smirk on his face. Marcus understood everything in an instant. "Step away from my wife," Marcus said. His voice was quiet, but it cut through the air like a knife through paper. Every person on that terrace heard him clearly. Every person felt the danger in those words. Victor turned around, and the smirk died on his face. All the color drained from his cheeks. His hands started to shake just a little bit. He suddenly realized exactly who Maya was married to, and what that meant for him. "Marcus," Victor said, trying to sound casual but failing badly. "There has been a misunderstanding. Your wife, she slipped, and I tried to catch her, but—" "You shoved her," Marcus said, still in that terribly quiet voice. "I saw the end of it through the window. And everyone here with a phone saw all of it." He pointed at the crowd. Dozens of people held up their phones, still recording. Some were already posting videos to social media. Some were sending the footage to news channels. A hashtag was forming at that very moment, spreading across the internet like wildfire. Marcus moved past Victor without even looking at him and knelt by the pool. He reached down, and Maya took his hand. He pulled her up gently, carefully, like she was made of glass. Hotel staff rushed over with thick, warm towels. Marcus wrapped one around Maya's shoulders and held her close. She was shivering, and not just from the cold water. "Are you hurt?" Marcus asked softly, checking her arms, her face, her head. "No," Maya whispered, but tears ran down her face. He grabbed me and pushed me. Marcus, he pushed me because he did not think I belonged here." Marcus closed his eyes for one long moment. When he opened them again, they were filled with cold, calculated anger. The kind of anger that does not scream or shout. The kind that makes decisions and never takes them back. He turned to face Victor, who now stood surrounded by his three friends. The judge looked uncomfortable. The senator was already backing away slowly. The banker was typing frantically on his phone, probably calling his lawyer. "Marcus, listen to me," Victor said, and now his voice was shaking. "I had too much to drink tonight. I made a mistake. A terrible mistake. But we are businessmen, you and I. We can talk about this like rational adults. We can make this right." "Make it right," Marcus repeated, and his voice was so cold it made people shiver. "You assaulted my wife in front of hundreds of witnesses because you think your money and your skin color make you better than her. You humiliated her. You tried to hurt her. And you think we can just talk about it." "Our companies have a deal," Victor said desperately. "Richardson Tech Solutions is supposed to provide all the computer systems for my new hotel chain. That contract is worth $50 million to both of us. Marcus, think about your shareholders. Think about your employees. Do not let one bad moment ruin everything." Marcus stared at him for a long, terrible moment. The entire terrace had gone completely silent. Even the people inside the ballroom had stopped moving, watching through the windows with wide eyes. "You are right about one thing," Marcus finally said. "We did have a deal." Past tense. Victor's face went even whiter. "What are you saying?" Marcus raised his voice so everyone could hear. Not shouting, just speaking clearly and firmly so that his words would be recorded on every phone, shared on every news site, and remembered by every person there. "For everyone listening right now, both here and online, I want to make an announcement. Richardson Tech Solutions is ending all business negotiations with Harrington Development Corporation, effective immediately. Permanently. The contract is canceled. There will be no computer systems provided. There will be no partnership. There will be no deals of any kind, now or ever." A wave of shocked gasps swept across the crowd. Phones buzzed with notifications. Reporters who had just arrived started shouting questions. Camera flashes went off like fireworks. Victor stumbled forward, his hands reaching out like he was drowning. "Marcus, please. You cannot do this. I have 12 hotels under construction right now. They all need your technology systems to function. Without them, I cannot open. I cannot operate. I will lose everything." "You should have thought about that before you put your hands on my wife," Marcus said simply. "I will double the offer," Victor said, his voice rising to a near scream. 60 million. No, wait, 70 million. I will triple it. Name your price, Marcus. Anything you want. Just do not do this." Marcus looked at him with something that might have been pity, but was really just disgust. "You could not afford the price," Marcus said quietly. "Not anymore. Not ever again. The price was basic human decency, and you chose not to pay it." He started to turn away, but Victor grabbed his arm. "Marcus, please. I have investors. I have employees who depend on me. I have obligations. You are going to destroy hundreds of jobs." Marcus pulled his arm free easily. "You should have considered them before you showed the entire world exactly who you really are. Actions have consequences. Victor, you are about to learn that lesson the hard way." The head of hotel security approached, a tall woman with sharp eyes and a serious expression. She had been watching everything from the moment Maya hit the water. "Mr. Harrington," she said in a voice that meant business, "you physically assaulted a guest at this hotel. I have dozens of witnesses and probably 100 videos as evidence. You are banned from this property effective immediately. You need to leave now, or I will call the police and have you arrested." "Banned," Victor shouted, his face turning red again. "You cannot ban me from my own event. I have hosted this charity gala for 10 years. My company paid for half of this ballroom's renovations." "You assaulted someone," the security chief said flatly. "You broke the law. You are lucky I am just banning you and not pressing charges on behalf of the hotel. Leave now." Victor looked around desperately at the crowd, searching for someone who would help him, someone who would take his side. But everyone looked away. The judge was already gone. The senator had disappeared into the ballroom. The banker was on his phone, probably telling his board of directors to cut all ties with Harrington Development immediately. Victor was alone. Marcus helped Maya toward the hotel entrance, where a car was already waiting to take them home. As they walked, people stepped aside, creating a path. Some looked at Maya with sympathy. Some looked angry on her behalf. A few even started clapping slowly, then faster, until applause filled the terrace. Not for Victor. For Maya and Marcus. For dignity. For justice. By the time Marcus and Maya got home that night, the video had been watched 5 million times. By morning, it had reached 50 million. By the end of the week, nearly every person in America with internet access had seen Victor Harrington shove Maya Richardson into that pool. The video showed everything. Victor's cruel words. His hands grabbing her shoulders. The violent push. Maya's scream. The splash. And worst of all, it showed Victor's face afterward, that terrible smirk, like he had done something to be proud of. The internet does not forget. And the internet does not forgive. Within hours, hashtags exploded across every social media platform. People shared the video with angry comments. They talked about racism. They talked about power and privilege. They talked about men who think they can hurt women and get away with it. News channels played the video over and over, discussing it with lawyers, activists, and business experts. Everyone had an opinion. And almost everyone agreed on one thing. Victor Harrington had destroyed himself. But Marcus Richardson was not done. Not even close. The next morning, Marcus sat in his office at Richardson Tech Solutions headquarters. His legal team surrounded him, along with his public relations director and his chief financial officer. They had been working all night. "Send the statement," Marcus said simply. His PR director nodded and pressed a button. Instantly, a carefully written message went out to every major news outlet, every business journal, and every social media platform Richardson Tech Solutions used. The statement was clear and powerful. It explained that Richardson Tech Solutions stood firmly against racism, violence, and discrimination of any kind. It announced that the company would never do business with individuals or organizations that displayed such behavior. It confirmed that all contracts with Harrington Development were permanently canceled, with no possibility of future negotiation. And it ended with a promise to donate $1 million to organizations that fought against racism and supported victims of assault. The internet exploded again, but this time with praise. People cheered Marcus for standing up for his wife. They applauded the company for taking a moral stand even though it cost them money. Richardson Tech Solutions' reputation soared. Within days, 3 other major companies reached out wanting to partner with them, offering contracts worth even more than what Victor had promised. Victor Harrington, meanwhile, watched his entire world collapse like a building being demolished floor by floor. First came the investors. The people who had given Victor money to build his hotels started demanding their money back. They did not want to be associated with a racist who assaulted women. One by one, they pulled out of his projects, taking their millions with them. Then came the banks. The bank president who had stood behind Victor that night at the gala called an emergency meeting. His board of directors voted unanimously to cancel all of Victor's loans and credit lines. Without money from the banks, Victor could not pay his construction workers. Without workers, his buildings sat unfinished, just empty concrete shells reaching toward the sky like the bones of dead giants. Then came the business partners. Companies that had contracts to supply materials, furniture, and technology for Victor's hotels all canceled their agreements. Nobody wanted their name connected to his anymore. The stain of that one terrible action spread like ink in water, touching everything Victor had built. Then came the lawsuits. Maya Richardson filed a civil lawsuit against Victor for assault and emotional distress. Her lawyers were the best in the country, and they had a video watched by millions showing exactly what happened. Victor's own lawyers told him he had no chance of winning. The case would cost him millions, possibly tens of millions. But that was not all. Other people started coming forward with stories about Victor. Former employees talked about how he treated them badly, especially women and people of color. Business partners shared stories of unethical deals and broken promises. The floodgates opened, and years of Victor's cruelty came pouring out into the public eye. Within 2 months, Harrington Development Corporation filed for bankruptcy. Victor had to sell his mansion to pay debts. He had to sell his expensive cars, his yacht, his private jet. Everything went to auction, and people who used to respect him now bought his possessions at discount prices, shaking their heads at how far he had fallen. The judge who had stood with Victor that night quietly retired early, citing health reasons. Everyone knew the truth. He could not show his face in court anymore after being seen laughing while a woman was assaulted. The senator lost his next election by a landslide after his opponent ran ads showing him standing behind Victor during the attack. The banker was forced out of his position by his own board of directors, who said his judgment could no longer be trusted. All four men who had stood together that night lost everything, but Victor lost the most. He became a symbol, a warning, a cautionary tale about what happens when people with power think they are above basic human decency. 6 months after that terrible night, Maya and Marcus attended another charity gala. This one was different. This one was at a community center in the neighborhood where Maya grew up, raising money for scholarships for young black students who wanted to become lawyers. Maya stood at the podium wearing another beautiful dress, this one green like spring leaves. Her head was held high. Her voice was strong and clear. That night at the Crystal Gardens Hotel, someone tried to make me feel small, Maya said to the crowd of supporters. He tried to make me feel like I did not belong. He used violence because his words were not enough to hurt me. But here is what he did not understand. You cannot make someone small when they know their worth. You cannot push someone down when they have love and dignity holding them up. The crowd applauded, many people with tears in their eyes. I am not here tonight as a victim, Maya continued. I am here as a survivor and as a fighter. I am here to tell young people, especially young black women, that you do belong. You belong in every room, at every table, in every space you choose to enter. And when someone tries to tell you otherwise, you stand firm. You stand tall. And you let your actions speak louder than their hate. More applause. Louder this time. Marcus stood to the side, watching his wife with pride shining in his eyes. That man took something from me that night, Maya said, her voice growing softer but somehow stronger. He took my sense of safety for a moment. He took my dignity for a moment. But only for a moment. Because I got it back. We got it back. And in doing so, we reminded the world that actions have consequences. That power without character is nothing. That money without humanity is worthless. She paused, looking out at the faces watching her. Young faces, old faces, hopeful faces. So to everyone watching, everyone listening, everyone who has ever been pushed down, literally or figuratively, I want you to know this. Get back up. Dust yourself off. Hold your head high. And never, ever let anyone make you feel like you are less than you are. Because you are enough. You have always been enough. And you always will be enough. The standing ovation lasted 5 full minutes. People cheered. People cried. People felt something shift inside them, something important and lasting. Outside the community center, news vans were parked, but this time they were not covering a scandal. They were covering a triumph. They were covering a woman who turned her worst moment into a movement. They were covering love defeating hate. Across town, in a small apartment that Victor Harrington could barely afford, a broken man sat alone watching the news coverage of Maya's speech. His empire was gone. His reputation was destroyed. His friends had abandoned him. He had lost everything because of one choice, one moment of cruelty, one decision to hurt someone he thought was beneath him. He finally understood what Marcus had meant. The price was basic human decency. Victor had refused to pay it. And now he would spend the rest of his life paying a much higher cost. Maya and Marcus drove home that night holding hands, the city lights reflecting off their car windows like stars. They had won, but not through revenge or cruelty. They had won by refusing to be broken, by standing together, and by showing the world that dignity and love are stronger than hate could ever be. And somewhere, in living rooms and bedrooms across the country, young black girls watched the news coverage and thought to themselves, I belong. I matter. I am enough. That, in the end, was the real victory. Not Victor's fall, but Maya's rise. Not the empire that collapsed, but the spirits that soared. Not the punishment of one man, but the empowerment of millions. Because sometimes justice is not about making someone pay. Sometimes justice is about making sure everyone knows their worth. And on that night, watching Maya speak with strength and grace, the world learned that lesson well. The end of Victor Harrington's empire was not really the end of the story at all. It was the beginning of something better. Something stronger. Something that would last long after the videos stopped playing and the hashtags stopped trending. It was the beginning of change, one pushed woman at a time, one standing ovation at a time, one young girl believing in herself at a time. And that made all the difference.